Thanks for joining the call today. Since we released the Acala 2.0 Exodus upgrade plan, probably roughly a month ago, there's a lot has been going on, and a lot has progress that we've announced on Twitter, but there's also a lot of development happening behind the scene. So this and also a lot more coming in our pipeline as well. So today I want to take some time to share a bit of the progress and give you some updates. Today's talk won't be too long, so it won't take up too much of your time. So I'm aiming at 30 minutes, see if I can do that, along with maybe some questions that I collected. I will answer along the way as well. So see how we do. And this is the sort of the rough agenda that I have, but I'll certainly try to answer some questions along the way as well. So first of all, we'll do some recap. So for those of people who are not up to date on what we are talking about and also what Acala is doing, then I will spend a few minutes to do the recap. And then we'll go into each of the three work streams of the Exodus upgrade, and that is the aSEED, and then we'll talk about aSEED upgrade. That's just been happening. So you see there's a vote going on just right before the live stream, which is very promptly aiming to do the aSEED upgrade stage 1, targeting, I think, August 15th. And then the third live stream, work stream, is the Universal Asset Hub. And then we'll talk a little bit more detail about that as well. And then we'll leave some time. If we have some time at the end, we'll do some Q&A. Otherwise, let's dive right into it. So first of all, let's recap on a little bit about Acala. We have or always have the vision of building out an open finance platform that is accessible to everyone. And then ultimately, we can deliver unbiased prosperity, and that's the goal. And that's for everyone, everywhere, right? And that's the ultimate goal. However, the road to that vision, you have to do a lot of building, especially at the technology stack where we are today. I think Web3 is probably in its immature stage. It's probably the early 90s for internet. There's a lot of infrastructure building. There's a lot of trial and error. But here we are, as builders, that's what we sign up for. And along the way, and it is very tough, very rough. And then we've also been through quite a bit for those, who's been with us, since the beginning. And we've done a lot of building, right? So Acala is a full stack network. And then it's got the network, it's got infrastructure, it's an app chain. It also got applications on top of it. And in a mature technology world, you as a team, you only need to focus on one of those areas that I mentioned. However, in Web3, everything is so immature, everything is just so disjointed. And then as a builder, you just need to build and figure out what's the missing piece and build more on the stack. And then hopefully one day what you are building connects with what other people are doing, and then so that creates a coherent experience for the end users. And that's where I think adoption will become explosive, right? And that's where we arrive at here is Acala 2.0. We've done quite a bit of trial. We've done quite a bit of building in the last 3 years or so. And we continue to adapt and evolve. And in Acala 2.0, this is where we identified the missing piece. We've built a network, we've built a protocol and application, and then the missing piece here is the liquidity layer for Web3 finance, and that's what's missing. And this is taking the first principle step back to build a critical component to reach our ultimate vision. And also a little bit of context of how we come up with all of this is, Acala is an app chain, and then it provides infrastructure for hybrid DeFi and CeFi applications that will bring real adoptions for Web3 finance. Missing any one of those, I think it's very hard to reach real adoption. And there are really 4 components that I think are required for the real adoption. Number one is security. You do need decentralization. and a level of security for people to have the trust in a trustless world. And second is customizability. So you need to be able to customize your core logic so that it meets the real world, either it's financial, regulatory, or any other requirements. For example, even as simple as gasless transactions, very simple use case, but there's more complicated use case in the regulatory world that you will need to be able to customize to basically meet the requirements and scale. And then the third one is an easy one to grasp, is usability. This is for users usability, but also for developers for usability. And I'll give some examples, who's doing really well in that area and who's not quite. And then the last one is seamless liquidity. And it's the area that we are tackling. And then I think any L1, L2, or L0, if you like, if they haven't reached the ideal adoption or reach, our optimal Web3 goal that everyone is using Web3, it's because I think they're missing, one or more of these four components. So Ethereum, has the liquidity, has some level of developer usability. It also has the security, but at some level it lacks the scalability, which also translates into usability, and it also lacks customizability, right? It's one size fits all. And then back to where we are in terms of context, Polkadot, on the other hand, has the security, customizability, but lack really usability and also seamless liquidity. And for that exact reason, for builders like ourselves, is here to build and close those gaps, right? And this is the stack. So the way that we solve this is on the Acala network. It's a modularized and also a hybrid app chain. And on the base layer, so if you look at the chart from the bottom up, at the bottom layer, that's Polkadot providing maximum security and also cross-chain communication, which is also secured, right, in a trustless world. And then a layer above that is the substrate runtime that makes Acala network highly customizable and powerful. That's where we built the core apps and also protocols. And this is also, we are able to build for enterprise and institution grade products like LS dot and also other products that I may mention later on. And then one layer up, and that's the usability part. If you look at runtime and Polkadot as the backend, the front end for us is EVM. So we have probably the only fully integrated EVM with substrate. So you can actually use Polkadot.js on our EVM. Of course, vice versa, you can use any Ethereum wallets like MetaMask or anything on top of the EVM applications that you pull on Acala that are fully integrated and be able to run EVM applications, but also be able to conduct cross-chain transactions like XCM or combine them together as a hybrid application. And then on top of that is, those things, a lot of them we have built in the past and continue to build. But then on top of that is where we're heading, is really building the liquidity, is combining multiple layers of those to provide the actual liquidity. So at a protocol layer, there's multiple LSDs or LSTs, liquid staking tokens. There's L dot, there's T dot provided by Tiger protocol, and then there's LS dot, that's institution, and there's probably more that we'll be bringing on later. And then on top of that, we've also built out with the Wormhole team is the multi-chain asset router that you can actually route assets from any L1, L2 to any parachains, through Acala. And then that's one transaction, a single transaction experience that's really going to make application development a lot seamless, because we're not talking about account abstraction anymore, which is a hot topic on Ethereum, but we're actually talking about chain abstraction using that sort of mechanism. But of course, we're not claiming that's perfect, but that's one level up that we're trying to create the developer experience and also user experience that ultimately will bring more liquidity. And then, of course, on the very top there you will see there's applications built on top of the EVM Plus. The asset hub, the asset router is one of them, but there's a bunch of apps that will be coming to the ecosystem. And one of them is Euphorids, that we're building a liquidity app that is going to help bring more liquidity on Acala and also serve the DOT ecosystem, the DOT holders and LC DOT holders, etc. And this will couple with, which I'll talk about next, is couple with the ACA upgrade tokenomics, so that encourage more sustainable and also captive liquidity, which is key in the pools and also in the applications that launch on Acala and also within the ecosystem as well. So hopefully that creates the virtuous cycle. So you can see, if you look at Acala in the distance, of course, you see those fancy words. But then in fact, it's actually a lot of the tech that we've been building along the way that help us reach this point, and then building the Acala 2.0. So yeah, so hopefully for those who haven't got the context, get the context, and for those already know all of this stuff, thanks for being patient. And then now on to the Acala Exodus upgrade, the 2.0 stuff. So go through this very quickly because there's quite a bit of content out there already. And there's 3 work streams out there. So number 1 is the aSEED, which is converting AUSD into aSEED. And then I'll talk about where we are at and where we the next step of that as well. But of course, that provides a pathway forward for AUSD, and you can also share growth with Acala if you want to stay holding aSEED as well. And then the next one is the Universal Asset Hub, and this have multiple components, as I mentioned. There's the infrastructure part, and there's also the LSDFi component, which is the liquid staking protocols, as well as applications built on top of those protocols as well. And then the third part is the ACA upgrade, the emission, burn, and staking and things like that, which I will talk about a bit more later as well. And then, lastly is the stablecoin. Now we're not limited, right? So once we build a liquidity layer, and there could be, native stablecoin, there could also be multiple different type of stablecoin built on top of this LSDFi hub. As you can see, this creates a lot more opportunity and variety for different type of stablecoin can be built once you've got the liquidity there. So yeah, so let's dive right in. So first of all, just an overview of the progress so far. As you can see, once we've passed the approval vote, I think that's a month or so ago, ACA emission is actually pinned, so which is just gone live, right? So if you see the vote, I think the target block is roughly around August 15th as the target day for its execution if the vote has passed, and that basically allows emission to happen on ACA, which will help with the liquidity growth on the Acala chain. And then as part of that, there will also be the burn happen in the next runtime upgrade, because part of the burn schedule is using the Polkadot or the substrate standard unspent on every spend cycle. A percentage of that will get burned, right? And the next thing, the take is on the AC conversion. So that happened last week. And then the trading is still going on, right? And then there's also available as a ERC20 token as now, aSEED. So you can actually trade it and also build application on top of it. And then the other stuff that are currently ongoing. Number 1, so staking is under development. And then vault conversion is under development. And then the Universal Asset Hub, there's something going live fairly soon along the infrastructure side, and then other stuff under development. So I'll be talking about details of that in the next few slides, but this hopefully give you an overview and then how the roadmap is kind of like stacked, and then we are kind of tracking ourselves along with progress there. So yeah, so let's go into it. So I'll try to answer some questions as I talk through these as well with regard to each topic. So I've mentioned that, so the conversion has been done, trading continues, and then integration now available via EVM Plus. I think there's some teams already contemplating doing stuff there. And then the vault conversion is in progress. And then the redemption is also development in progress. And then I know someone asked questions regarding the date. I don't have it yet. It will be in the proposal when that comes along. The vote conversion does involve code change, so palette change. So it will require audits, etc. And then once that's been done, then there will be more clear proposal for that, and then the exact block and date will be included in there. So that's that. And then one of the things is how does like aSEED conversion affect vault owners? I think that's one very common question there. So at this stage, before vault conversion happens, vault owners can still manage their vaults, pay back, close vaults, but there's no longer any mint. So however many aSEED are out there, that's however many aSEED are there. So no more can be issued. And then at vault conversion, though, the conversion rate's already been set. So if you go on to the wiki page that we had, so if I can just maybe share that. Yeah, so if you go on to the wiki that we have, there's a bit of the documentation there, but just be aware as we progress, there will be more content be put on this, and then there will be amendments to some of the technical details there as well. So yeah, so you can read through some of the stuff along aSEED conversion, and then there's something regarding the CDP conversion there, how it's been done, and then what's the calculation, and then there's also the actual numbers that we'll be using for the collaterals as well as for the AUSD sort of price, and then that's based on setting the fair price. Basically, regardless which side you are on, right? Regardless you're holding aSEED or not holding aSEED, whether you have the vote or not, then this price shouldn't affect your decision. Your decision is purely based on how you think about the future of Acala or aSEED, right? So that's the fair price that it's setting. And then if we go back to here, yeah, so and then there's also people who have assets in the collateral, but they haven't actually borrowed or they haven't actually owe any aSEED or AUSD to the protocol. What happened when the conversion happened? So there's nothing happened. So if you don't owe any aSEED or AUSD to the protocol, so if you haven't borrowed anything, then your collateral remains as your collateral. Then you can withdraw them anytime you want. The conversion wouldn't actually convert those into the aSEED treasury, right? Yeah. So and then there's also a question regarding AUSD on centralized exchange, whether they are converted to aSEED. So basically, we don't distinguish accounts. So all on-chain accounts that are that has AUSD that are already converted to aSEED. So whether it's an exchange account, personal account, whatever account, holding custodial, as long as it's in an on-chain account, then all AUSD balance held on it is aSEED now. But of course, it's a different story if you have a private database. For example, if your on-chain account says you have 100 AUSD, but then, in your private database, you have 1,000 AUSD, then only those 100 AUSD gets converted to aSEED, right? So, that's what blockchain is for anyway. Yeah, so, and then with regard to KuCoin, and then AUSD identified as error mint is in the trace report, and then it's under law enforcement handling, waiting for resolution. Like those are only specific to the error mints. Everything else that's not related to that. So yeah, so hopefully that gives people some updates on the aSEED side and then how we progress forward. And I think this is going to be quite exciting because some alpha leak here, right? But don't take my words for it. Is there will be some product built on top of aSEED. I think it's going to be interesting for people anticipate to participate in that. So let's move on. Next is the ACA update. So this is key to engage ACA holders. and provide staking, sharing ecosystem growth, as well as help liquidity growth on Acala, right? And this is also carried out in phases. So in here, basically this is the overall picture, and all of this is carried out in phases. So there's the emission part that's happening now, and then the staking part is happening in the next phase, and then burn is also happening in the next runtime upgrade, and then this will coupled with the Universal Asset Hub, where the distribution goes into the different farms, the liquidity pools, the dApps, and then as well as going to the stakers, and then hopefully the staker can be more engaging, and then also help shape how the ecosystem grows as well, but at the same time share the growth in itself as well. So that's kind of like recap and where we are at today. So as I said, the vote just gone up. I think it's targeting August 15th for the emission. And the details all in the tweet. So if someone can share the tweet, or on the wiki that I showed just now, there's also details on the emission, the burn, the utility of the aCEED token. So if you want to just read in more details, that's where you can go. And burn will be in next runtime upgrade. Staking is in progress. It also requires audits. So again, similar to the vote conversion. So once the development and audit is done, then there will be a date and block number in the proposal. So then everyone can actually see and review that. And then so phase 2 is staking, and then phase 3 is putting in the security and also dynamic voting and more fancy sort of optimization for the staking part of it. And then in terms of I think there's some questions on that I can also answer. Is there's question regarding ACA utility as a portion of the staking ACA can be used as mitigation tool in event of a shortfall. So if you look at the ACA utility, there's a number of them, right? So one is like ACA can be used for staking, and then second is ACA can use to farm ecosystem tokens, etc. And then one of the utility is, or the last one is, a portion of the staked ACA can be used as mitigation tool in the event of a shortfall. Can you give an example, right? So this is part of the phase 3, as I mentioned. So it won't be sort of implemented upfront because I think it requires a bit more discussion, and also some details needs to be kind of like discussed and also voted in before everything can be executed. But in general, what that will look like, I think the closest model that I can think of is probably the Aave safety module. So if you look into the Aave safety module, it's somewhat like an insurance for the network. So on one side, you're getting the share of the network staking reward, but on the other hand, you actually put up a percentage, say 10% or 15% or whatever, that is potentially could be used for network shortfall. But of course, even that you have to vote, right? So it's not like every shortfall it will just automatically get paid out. Not quite like that. I think the system still requires governance, requires holders to make the final decision and call. And then again, the scope can be voted in as well, like with regard to what covers in that insurance. But I think it makes sense to limit that to Acala network protocols, not random protocols that just like randomly built on Acala. But again, those scope can also be limited via on-chain governance as well. So yeah. And the emission rate for ACA is 100 mil a year, and it's in the proposal that's like lasts for 6 years, right? So that's merely a prediction of how long it's gonna take realistically or conservatively to bootstrap the network and the vision that we are heading. And in reality, though, because this is an on-chain proposal, let's say in 1 year or 2 years, Acala network is already at a much progressive level, and we can definitely, review that proposal and then put up a new proposal, for example, to reduce the emission rate if needed, and then even like stop the emission, earlier if that's needed, right? So this is all, the beauty of on-chain governance, where you can, real life sort of live monitoring the progress, and then you can actually adapt and adjust as you progress with the real life data, right? So yeah, so that's that. And then next, so I'm doing really quickly because I think I'm going to go over the 30-minute time frame here. So the next one is a Universal Asset Hub. And then, so I think folks can also go on to the wiki. There's a bit of write-up there on what are the components. So there is definitely, let's go there. So, right. Yeah, so first of all, I think at the base level, there's LSD variety or asset variety and liquidity there. And there's different type of liquid staking tokens available, and there will be more that we will be bringing in. That's both in the DOT ecosystem and also outside of DOT ecosystem, like Ethereum and other exciting ecosystems they'll be working with. And I think, yeah, so you can read a little bit more on that if you like. And then apart from that, then once we have the variety of the assets, imagine if you've got DOT LSTs and also tap ETH or the ETH LSTs, you can do hedge trading and you can do very interesting products built on top of it, right? And that's the whole goal of bringing more liquidity so that the application built on top becomes meaningful and useful, right? And part of this is also, let's see if I've got the slide. Yeah, so part of this is also fostering a LSDFi ecosystem, right? And that's only possible like if you have something like EVM, a virtual machine that you can deploy smart contract applications that leverages all the liquidity, right? So all of this is going to be powered by Acala EVM Plus. And then alongside, so if you can see this is like all of these assets can come over and easily across parachain as well as L1 and L2 ecosystem because of the asset router that we've built, the infrastructure, but also is the Acala EVM Plus that we've built, and then hopefully then that fosters creates an ecosystem of applications that can leverage all the liquidity that's been built up on top of it, right? And of course, the ACA then becomes the oil in the engine, and the ACA holders becomes part of the empowerer of the ecosystem, and hopefully that can those holders can also ride with the ecosystem growth, right? So there's a connection in the two. Yeah, and that's sort of where the hub is. And then some question related to that is I mentioned there's a variety of different liquid staking tokens, and then one of them is the LS DOT. So that's the institution or enterprise grade DOT. So that's people asking where's the status, because that's been announced quite a while back. So well, it's the enterprise grade product, so we're still waiting for administrative sign off, but we're already kind of like starting to talk about specs and buildings and etc. So once the sign off is done, then the building can start, and then it's based on the LDOT, the protocol at a code level, but then there's going to be a lot of regulatory and also commercial customization. So that's the part that I mentioned, why customizability is very important. For you to kind of reach some adoption, open up more use cases there. Yeah, and then there's also Ethereum side of LSD that will come along. So for example, one of our collaborators, so the Tapio ETH, they've already launched testnet, and it's very well received. I think there's like 20 or 30,000 testnet users or ETH holders already in that ecosystem. And so that's going really, really well, and have really great integration partners as well lined up. And ultimately, that will bring more liquidity, right, from that side into the DOT ecosystem, and then also provide exposure for DOT holders into other ecosystem as well, and vice versa. So that's going to be beneficial for both sides. So that's that. Yeah. So and then what you can expect next, right? So this is the part that's going to be interesting. I don't have much detail today, but I can only show you that there are going to be long-term incentive programs that are coming, and then also LST seasons that will be coming. There's no dates here, but it's going to be the next couple of months. So brace yourself and get ready for the splash. So if you hold DOT, if you hold even LC DOT, right? I think a lot of you actually have LC DOT. So even you hold LC DOT, you should pay attention and tune in and follow our Twitter and announcement. So there will be programs upcoming specifically for these people to participate in liquidity apps like Euphorids and also other programs that we have on Acala for farming opportunities, for liquidity opportunity, etc. Right? And then yeah, so key LPs and LST seasons. Yeah, and then EVM plus LSDFi debt platform is also there, and folks are building on top of it. And as I mentioned, Euphorids is one of the first few launching soon, and there will be more coming, right? So without naming names, so there will be compliant and institution-grade yield products based on LDOT coming, and then there's also option trading markets that's coming. There's also dApps built on top of aSEED that's coming. Yeah, so along the pipeline. So hopefully we can also get more to come as well in our next update. So that's a lot of the content in a very short period of time. And then, also one question that I get is related or not related, is about LC DOT. So when and how LC DOT can be redeemed. So LC DOT is the liquid crowd loan DOT on Acala, and this will you can, so when the unlock event happen, I think there's an exact block number someone can share for that event, and that's roughly October 23rd or 25th, depends on how fast the block is getting produced. But we can share that the block number later, and then so the LC DOT gets unlocked when that event happen, and of course Acala has already secured another 2 years of lease, so we're all good on that front. But for those LC DOT holders, when the unlock happen, the LC DOT will be automatically claimed from Polkadot to DOT, and then you can either use an interface provided by Acala to get the DOT back. Or you can use Polkadot.js, for Acala to claim the DOT back, using some extrinsic or transactions. Yeah, and then there will also be some programs for the LC DOT holders as well, and also help people to automatically redeem their DOT or participate in some of the programs. Or you don't want to, or you want to do either or both. We also try to come up with ways to help folks to do that as well. So stay tuned for the upcoming news for DOT and LC DOT holders. I think that's the end. That's the end of all my updates. All right. Yes, so aSEED will be withdrawable. So that's phase 3 of the aSEED workstream. That's the redeem part of aSEED. So there will be more detail released as we progress and finish the phase 2. So yeah. The next runtime upgrade, I don't have an exact day. It's the runtime upgrade is mainly to do with upgrading Acala and Karura to the latest, or not the latest, but the progressing with the substrate and Polkadot upgrade and Cumulus upgrade. And then along that, the change of the burn is part of the runtime as well. And then because it's set as a percentage, so it won't affect how much gets burned, right? So yeah, so I think that's it. So let's keep on building. Yeah, so and thanks for tuning in today, and thanks for supporting and going along with us.